有啊，这个。Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's ready. So do you have PPT or some like do you have PowerPoint speech?
You guys or
You guys.
no, we're gonna first you have this. I still haven't gotten your tags. Yeah, so many things.
It's fine.
But we don't have ourselves, but we're gonna have a presentation. I'm gonna give a pitch at 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay, good.
But yeah.
So if you have some PowerPoint, we can connect with the laptops and it will record.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Everything is gonna come from that computer.
Yeah.
Everything is already because Koskenranta they wanted us to send all the information.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah. But I'm going.
Is that your own computer or?
No, it's his computer.
Okay.
Yeah. You can take it away because we had a huge problem with the Windows update. I have technology guys here, everything together, so you can't touch nothing. You can't touch because there is a risk that it won't work. That's why. What do you need? You can't go in the computer. No, you can't go. Yeah.
Take the signal.
You can go to the computer. No access from outside to the system because there is a risk that it will fall down.
Tiedätkö ne tonne esille nää? Joo. Okei. Ne en nyt teipannut niitä, me vaan laitoin noin laput tuohon kuulettelee, että se on ihan niin.
Mä niitä tarvitsen montaa, niin mä voin antaa sen. Mä haken oli jätkille samalla niitä. Joo, ota mä tuon sen lapun sulle. Jep. Sinne ei voi laittaa ulkopuolella. Siis se on ihan riski, että kaatuu koko järjestelmä. Niin. Joo, se pitänyt olla
I'm gonna go get your tags.
Kaksi.
声音怎么样？
Meidän pitäisi aloittaa jo, mutta nyt tarvitaan sun. Onko täällä Helsinkiä?
Go have a seat. Kello on puoli. Ruvetaan aloittelemaan.
Tuolta tulee. No meille ei varsinaisesti eikä voida mennä tähän johonkin eteen.
Vähän kutisemmista
One man down. Very natural. Mutta niin, pitäisikö meidän mennä tuohon istumaan?
Se mikä tarvittiin tässä niinku polleilla.
here in front of the stage and take your seats so we can start as soon as possible with Talent Boost. So drink your coffees really quick, grab a sandwich or something, and we'll start the show. Alright, I still see a few people who can take seats. We still have seats here. Now we can begin. Alright, let's get this show started. Good morning everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean Ricks. I'll be your host for today. I work for the Finnish national broadcaster Yle as a host and journalist. Just a quick question. You can raise your hand if you want to say yes. Let's get body parts moving. How many of you woke up this morning, looked at the weather and thought, oh my god, I wish I lived in Portugal? Remember? Yeah, me too. But, apart from that and the Finnish weather, I think we can offer you a great show today. Great talkers. We have one great speaker coming up soon. What we're going to talk about is quite simple actually. We're talking about talent. How to attract international talent into Finland, keep international talent here, and make Finnish businesses boom and be successful and even better and better. And we have some absolutely amazing speakers here today to give you ideas. You can meet new people, come up with new ideas, and obviously we hope you talk on social media about everything. We have a hashtag Talent Boost, and hopefully also you meet just new people, new ideas, and talk about this long after the event. But first, because I don't want to talk too much, I want to welcome a man who's way more smarter than I am. This man has kept his talents close to Finland. He is the former Prime Minister of Finland and the chairman of the board of East Office of Finnish Industries. Welcome very much, Mr. Esko Aho. Give a huge round of applause for this man.
Good morning. How many of you have been to New Zealand? How many have visited the capital of New Zealand, Wellington? Maybe 10. Me too. How many of you would like to move to Wellington, to live in Wellington, New Zealand? 1, 2, 3 of you. It sounds roughly the same as to move to Helsinki late November. But I have to tell you a story, unfortunately not Yle, but not any other media company in Finland has been interested in the story, in spite of the fact that it was on the front page of the New York Times a few weeks ago. And the story goes, Wellington came to the conclusion that they need new talent. They need 100 highly educated and trained digital specialists, digital technology specialists, in order to get their economy growing. And in the country, in New Zealand, they have green card, some kind of green card system. They needed a quota, and the national government gave them a quota. And they expected as many as 2,500 applications all over the world. How many they got? What is your guess?
How many applications?
Yeah, how many applications they got?
I'll be very conservative and just say 2,000.
They got 48,000.
I was very conservative.
You were very conservative. Journalists are very conservative, I know. But the reason why, that's very interesting, and that was the story. That was the story in New York Times. Why people wanted to go. But first before that, they looked at where these people are coming from. India, good guess. There was a second country, in addition to India, that was very well represented in those aspects. The United States. And from which companies these people were coming from? Apple, Google, Microsoft, and so on. How on earth people from the United States, from leading internet companies in the world, would like to move to New Zealand? That's why I think YLE should be interested in this topic as well. Because if you are able to find an answer to that question, maybe it will be easier to answer the question why to move to Finland in the middle of November or late November. The main reasons, there were partly guesses for sure, but main reasons were for the first, they have seen the movie Lord of the Rings. So they have an understanding that this is a beautiful country. There is a magic nature in that country. Secondly, they wanted to go to a small country. Thirdly, they wanted to live in a country which is able to provide secure and safe life environment, good education for children. That kind of things were big. I looked at FT a few days ago, an article about, or not article, but ad about Helsinki. Helsinki was telling for readers of FT why to move to Helsinki. Unfortunately, they have not read this New York Times article about Wellington. They tried to say, in my opinion, this is a bit characterization, but they wanted to say that Finland is not Silicon Valley, not completely. This is not like London exactly, but we are very close. We are very close. And if you want to close your eyes for a while, you will find out that you are almost there. I'm not sure if this is difficult. Why next week 17,000 or close to 20,000 startup people are coming to Helsinki? To Slush. They don't want to come here because we have beautiful, fantastic hotels. They cannot drink cappuccino on the street in the sunlight. They're coming because this is the most exciting event in Europe, organized in Finland. They are more interested in substance than all these exciting things around that. I think this is very important to be kept in mind when we are thinking about how to create attractiveness of Finland and to get foreign talent to come to Finland. I had a friend of mine who was working for the military in Finland, and he was serving as a manager or leader of a unit in most northern part of Finland. And he said, I have two problems. How to get most qualified people to move to Sodankylä, to Lapland? And second problem, how to get them out? and again, the same thing. We have a lot of hesitation. We have a lot of challenges. But if you are able to attract right kind of people, I think we can be able to solve it. How many of you are speaking Finnish? Almost everyone. How many of you have read the latest book of Antti Tuuri called Tangopojat? Right, I have read that. It's a fantastic story, and this is linked to talents as well. It's a story of Finns from southern Ostrobothnia, actually my home region more or less, and how they moved from Finland late 60s to Sweden in order to work for the car industry in Sweden. And can you imagine? They left farms, agrarian environment where they were grown up, where they had tried to get their future, but they didn't have that opportunity. That's why they had to move. And they took a ferry to Stockholm, train from Stockholm, and first morning when they arrived, what they did, they started to work. They went directly to the factory. From agrarian environment to the factory before having to go home or anything. That was how people had to do things when we moved from agrarian into industrial. And roughly 30% of our existing jobs disappeared in 1950s and 1960s. And elementary education was enough, more or less, to give people those skills and talents they needed in order to do that. It was tough, difficult, but most of these people survived. Now we are moving from industrial into digital. And again we face roughly the same kind of situation. But talent requirements, skill requirements are going to be completely different. And I think Finland cannot survive if we are not able to have global talents. Our own talents, existing talents, have to be developed in a way that they can meet global standards. But at the same time, we have to be able to attract people who are coming to Finland in order to support this global competitiveness of Finland. And we cannot survive without getting new talents from abroad. But when doing that, I think it's very important to understand that we have to be open-minded. We have to create multicultural environment. We have to be able to speak foreign languages. We have to be able to provide for these people an opportunity to keep their own identity in Finland as well. But at the same time, what is the most important language feature? It's Finnish. In Finland, our tradition is that we don't look at success cases. We always carefully look at mistakes we have made. We want to analyze all the mistakes, misfortunes. We are very happy to see that somebody has failed. And we want to learn about all these failures. We want to understand why we failed. For sure, it's necessary sometimes, but it's even more important to learn from success cases. How many of you have heard this year about negative consequences of Nokia's decision to give up mobile phone manufacturing? Negative news. Only few. Do you know why? Do you understand how is it possible that 7,000 Nokians lost their jobs 2011, 2013, and we are not discussing about that anymore? Because of the fact that we were able to create new opportunities for these people. 60% of all of them who left Nokia were re-employed already before they left Nokia. 60% of all. We didn't try to keep them as long as possible at Nokia, but we tried to use all the resources in order to help them to get a new job. And even bigger surprise, even at Nokia, I was responsible for that program, and I tried to gets the board, executive board, to accept a target that in Finland we try to get 100 new companies out of this program. And what they said, Esko, you don't understand. Nokians, old Nokians, they are not entrepreneurs. It's a dream that they will be entrepreneurs. Only few of them can do it. And that's why the target to get 100 companies to be created was not accepted. How many we got? 420 companies. And today these companies are employing thousands and thousands of people. Oulu, which suffered a lot because of Nokia's decline, in Oulu, immediately they can employ 1,500 coders. 1,500. If you are interested in coding and you have capacities, please move to Oulu and you will be employed immediately. This is something we don't discuss at all. We discuss all the time how jobs are lost, but we don't discuss how they are created. And in this case, luckily, many of those people who created their new companies were also born outside Finland. They were people who came because of Nokia here. I have a lot of ideas to speak about what kind of talents we need. We need different kind of talents, but I will say only one final thing. The future is for those who have multidisciplinary talents. Industrial age was based on standardized talents. You have to be able to adjust yourself into industrial work which was based on standardized talents. And that's why these former farmers in Finland were able to move immediately into industrial work in Sweden and to start working for Volvo and car manufacturing. But in today's world, the most critical thing is how to integrate digital technologies into everything what we do. In manufacturing, in logistics and communication, in healthcare, in education, in public services, in private services, in everything what we could do. And for that we need multidisciplinary talents. And I don't want to limit myself only into technological talents, business talents, management talents, leadership talents, or that kind of things, but also human sciences are important. Understanding of different cultures is very, very important in the future of work. So these are my ideas. I hope that you will find out how Finland can be Wellington. And it's not that difficult. The knowing what Wellington is, we can, if Wellington can do that, we can do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aho. Look out, Wellington. And just being a journalist, I have to apologize, Esko. We tend to write about failures a lot. We're quite a negative type. I'll try to be positive today and inspiring, but yeah, it's a good notion towards my profession. Just saying that, I have some tough questions to ask my next guest who will come here on stage. Director General Margarita Piiloman from the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. You can take a couch here. Thank you, Margarita. This, not to sound negative, which Esko said already, Finland is kind of in a situation where we're not attracting international talent as much as we should. We could do better. As a journalist, we always know what's wrong, but we can't fix anything, so I'll ask you. But first, my first question is, considering the weather today and how grisly it is it really ethically right to ask people to move here for most of the year? I mean, really, can you live with your conscience?
Well, I don't know whether it's ethical or not, but it might be kind of a set of mind if you find a peculiar, strange small country interesting, then it's okay, no matter what the weather is like. And of course, we could say that the weather could be kind of an attraction considering the popularity of slush. What is it all about, slush? It is November, it is rain, it is wind, it is wet snow, and it might be an attraction, peculiar country.
I think Slush had a good idea with this kind of name slush in November, and we have the name Boost here, so maybe we need to think about that next time. But just I want to ask you also about, of course, what this is, Talent Boost. Now, when I first heard the name Talent Boost, I kind of thought that it sounds like one of those 100 singing competitions on TV. There are way too many. But if you could tell me, what is Talent Boost and what are you trying to do, except of course, make people stay here in November, which is okay, it could be great. I don't want to sound too negative, but what is it?
Well, as how should I say, as a specialist coming from a ministry, I of course must answer that Talent Boost is a program that the present government decided on its midterm policy review this year, decided that we need a program to both boost Finland and boost the talent in Finland and the talent that we want to attract from abroad to Finland, to Finnish companies, and also, how should I say, promote the awareness of Finnish companies towards talent, both the national talent and international talent. It is a cross-sectoral program decided by the present government. But if you ask me, as a person, I might say that it is more mindset, set of mind, how we think about Finland, how we think about talent, how we want to get into each individual's head and kind of change the mindset.
What is the kind of Finnish mindset? Esko already a bit talked about that, but in your sense, are we a bit, we look for failures, we want to punish ourselves a bit? What kind of is the mindset?
Well, at present, I think that Finland still is looking more inwards than outwards. We kind of cherish the speciality of Finnish enterprises, Finnish work, Finnish expertise, and that is not a bad thing. If we cherish the very good things in Finland, we can at the same time open our minds to the world and attract people, attract companies, attract investments from abroad. And that doesn't mean that we have to give up the speciality of the Finnish culture and Finnish, how should I say, Finnish set of mind. But we are looking more inwards than outwards, and that is something I would like to change and get into people's heads and open their eyes, open the doors and the windows to the world.
Wow, sounds so unfinished, but sounds kind of great also. What are you hoping to achieve with Talent Boost? I mean, you had some ideas there already, but what's the kind of goal here? Like concrete goals that you want to achieve with this? Instead, of course, you want to change the Finnish mindset, which sounds great.
Of course, we would like to make Finland more attractive. Let's say, maybe the way that Wellington did the job isn't the way to copy, but it is a way to, how should I say, present questions. What are the most attractive things in Finland and in Finnish companies? That is one thing that is an important target in the Talent Boost program. Of course, another target is to reach to the Finnish companies who are recruiting, who are in need of labor force. Esko Aho was talking about Oulu and the need for digital experts in we need to reach to these companies and as well to other Finnish, maybe small and medium-sized companies that are considering recruiting people. Consider, please, the international talent that we have in Finland, and consider, please, the international talent that are maybe considering leaving Finland or considering entering Finland from abroad.
Yeah, considering I was thinking about Oulu, maybe Oulu just needs its own, like Lord of the Rings or something. That would be quite great. Immigration, of course, has been a very hot and polarizing topic for years in Finland. It seems like we can't even have real good discussions about it because it's such an emotional conversation. Do you think, like, looking from abroad, is Finland right now a very hospitable country? Is it easy to come here as a foreigner to work here?
I would say that since you have entered Finland and since you have gotten the grip of Finland, it is easy, but it isn't very welcoming or forthcoming if you look at Finland from abroad. But when you enter Finland and you get your feet here and you get acquaintances, you get friends, you get networks, after that it is easy and well, at least to my opinion and to my experience.
Yeah, Esko did have a beautiful idea that Finland will become the greatest language in the world one day. That'll be great. Of course, when you're talking about international talent, what kind of talent are you talking about? What's this kind of a talent that you want to come here, that you want to keep here also?
Well, we do have people who have moved to Finland as family members, spouses. Those are very often international talents. People who have come here to study, and after they have finished their studies, they are considered international talents. People who have immigrated for several different reasons, family connections or ancient history connections, they have immigrated to Finland. They are very often international talents. People who know the culture and the environment in other countries are considered talents because of the knowledge of the culture and the circumstances. For example, in New Zealand or another country, remote country to Finland, and those countries might be the, how should I say, the target countries to Finnish companies who are looking for more growth or for more losing my words, being more international in their business sector.
So yeah, what can Finnish companies get out of international talent? Apart from great conversations in English at the coffee table, but what can you get out of international talent? What's the kind of drive to recruit more international talents?
As I just said, they have more knowledge of their own country of origin than Finnish talents do have. The culture knowledge, the knowledge of the different circumstances, the knowledge of the, let's say, the marketing possibilities in their own countries of origin. That would be an asset to a Finnish company deciding to go abroad, deciding to grow more and go international.
I mentioned this before, but as said, Finland isn't doing that well when it comes to attracting international talent to Finland. Now, as we said, of course, we've been joking about the weather a lot, but that's not the reason. What are some of the key reasons you think that we're having these kind of difficulties right now attracting people here? Even though we have a great country, great systems, everything.
I think that Esko Aho talked a bit about that. We're maybe trying to compete in the wrong way internationally. We're trying to relate ourselves to, let's say, London or New York or California, which might not be the right strategy to choose, we could choose otherwise, and we could use the networks that we do have. Actually, there are people who have moved to Finland and who do have networks here in the country, and they do have networks abroad. We could use those networks to make Finland even more attractive than it is at present.
Making Finland attractive again. Sounds like something I've heard before. I'm I'd say, local talent. I live in Tampere. But if I was an international talent, why should I come here? What's the point? What can I really get out of this? How would you pitch me Finland just like, I'll give you 30 seconds? Well, quite difficult.
Oh, you're making this very difficult to me. Why would you come to Finland? You would come to Finland because we do have a very good, how should I say, very good trust in the society. We have a very good working environment here. We do have a very good, interesting, developing industries in Finland. The labor market situation is getting better day by day. We have investments coming into Finland already, and you could be part of this good success story that is starting right now in Finland.
That was a bit over 30 seconds, Margarita, but that's okay. I was just wondering, like, we have people, of course, here in the audience who have Finnish companies, and they might be thinking about, should I hire international talent? What are some of the ways that you can do it? I mean, of course, we're talking about doing it, but people might not know what are the best ways, how to attract international talent, how to get people to come to your companies, how to reach international talent. Do you have any advice for people here who have such companies and would like to, I don't know, get people from other countries, work for them, cooperate?
I think that good contact points could be big growth centers in Finland. Actually, the biggest cities in Finland, they are really good at networking with the international talents. And of course, the growth centers also attract people who have already moved into Finland. They find, how should I say, like-minded people in the great growth centers. And of course, the universities and the educational institutions in the growth centers, they are very good hubs as well as the cities are. And companies working closely together with the educational hubs, they form a network already, and you could get information from there. Of course, the public administration also tries to help companies to get in contact with international talents. And next year there is Business Finland starting, and Business Finland has a task with this Talent Boost program to promote both the international talent and to promote the Finnish companies for the internationally talented people in Finland and also abroad.
And also, of course, we're talking about attracting talent all the time here, but of course we also want to keep the talented people here in the audience today staying here in Finland. Apart from some of the challenges we have here, how do we make these people stay in a good way?
I would go back to my original thought that it is more about the mindset that we have here in Finland. If we think that this is a good and cherished thought, that we are more open to the world and the world is more open to us, then it's easier for the international talents to stay in Finland. And of course, international talents can move abroad and tell a good story about Finland. That is a very good thing as well. If an international talent working in Finland would decide to move back to his or her country of origin, and tell a good story about Finland. That is a very good thing as well. And maybe he or she can take something back to his country of origin and help the companies and the businesses to flourish there as well.
I think I have to raise my hand up, and I have this Finnish in that when I go abroad, I always say kind of negative things about Finland. It's just a mindset. What could I do practically, apart from being in the sun more, to make myself a bit more positive while talking about Finland? I have this problem, obviously. And I'm a journalist, so I'm very negative.
Well, I think you would have to work that in your own head. If you take
I have a lot to work in my head, trust me.
Yeah. If you take a ball and if you put it into the sunlight, the ball always has the dark side also, but it does have the sunny side. And if you turn it around, the sunny side and the dark side will be different. And this is something that we could all do in our own heads, that we could turn the ball around and see what it looks like on the sunny side and on the dark side. Other countries have dark sides as well, and even though they might seem very attractive, when you look at the sunny side, you can always turn it around and realize that there are different shades of maybe gray and maybe blue and green and red as well.
I didn't really think we were going to end up talking about my dark side, but I have to say, because these couches are a bit like a psychiatrist's couch. You're making me feel so much better. And we're driving the car today is going to be easy. Turning up the sunny side. One final question. Margarita, it's November. Where are you going for vacation? And it would be great, I don't want to give you answers. If you say Lapland, it would sound so much better than Spain.
Well, actually, I just had a vacation, and I had my vacation in California, USA. But the next vacation I am going to take is in Lapland. And it's going to be next spring, in the beginning of April, and there is going to be a lot of sunshine, a lot of clean white snow, wonderful possibilities to do cross-country skiing as well as downhill skiing, and enjoy the magic spring of Finnish Lapland.
That is such a beautiful idea to end with. Margarita, thank you for the therapy. Thank you for the ideas. It's been great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know about you guys and girls, I feel so much lighter right now after that chat. Next, I would like to ask our next guest speaker to come up on stage. I pray that I am saying your name right. I usually forget names and I usually don't have a problem with pronunciation, but Kajal Sanrashka, she was nodding a bit. A Churchill Fellow researcher, entrepreneur and founder of Growth Hub, which works directly with European founders to de-risk their entry to the US market. She has some absolutely great things to say. Kajal, the stage is yours. You're welcome.
Hyvää huomenta Helsinki ja kiitos kutsusta tulla puhumaan aiheesta supernainen ja maahanmuuttaja. I felt I had to start in Finnish since the former Finnish Prime Minister said this was going to be the most important language. So let me try that in English. Good morning. I'm actually thrilled to be back in Finland after my first ever visit in May. And it left such a huge impression on me, and I hope to be back every year. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Economic Affairs for inviting me to speak today on a topic I am deeply passionate about, and that's immigrant entrepreneurship. It's based on research I've been conducting on how cities attract and integrate immigrant entrepreneurs. I myself, I'm of Indian origin. I grew up in London. I lived in New York and Zurich. So I wear many different hats. I've been an international entrepreneur, student, and worker. So I hope that my lens gives you some idea around some of the initiatives we're working on, talent attraction systems. So some of you may be wondering why this presentation is called Superwoman is an Immigrant. So let me offer you a few first clues. How many people in the audience have seen this movie or know of the movie? Okay. And how many people also know that the Superman character was invented and created by descendants of Jewish immigrants during the Great Depression in the US? One. Okay. So hold that thought, and the rest I'll reveal as I go through the presentation. So why is immigrant entrepreneurship and talent attraction such a big issue? I recently read a book by Ruchir Sharma called The Rise and Fall of Nations, and he distills 10 rules around key predictors of why nations would grow and prosper or they would decline. And there was a staggering statistic. In less than 1% of cases did countries with shrinking populations maintain a growth rate of 6% or more. Now, I know population growth alone isn't enough, but it is a necessity. And as we know today, in many countries in Europe, there are shrinking working age populations. In terms of the entrepreneurial immigrant community, they actually have the capacity to create outsized economic benefits. So I'll give you the example of the UK. There's around 500,000 people from 155 countries that are today generating revenues of around 1 million. And around 50% of businesses in the UK are immigrant owned. Now, I promised that I wouldn't talk about Brexit today on the speech, but it is devastating when you realise the impact that immigrants have on the economy. And I myself grew up in an immigrant entrepreneurial family in the UK. So what I was really motivated to understand was how are cities actually tackling this issue today? And more specifically, what programs are there on the ground to help not only attract international talents, but integrate them quickly enough to build businesses and create jobs? And my first biggest question when I went to a city was, how do I decode this ecosystem? Luckily, there was a smart fellow called Eisenberg who did this before me, and he mapped the ecosystem into 6 different domains. And I initially thought I could just isolate a few of the variables like policy, finance, or culture. But I quickly realized as I traveled that it's often the strength of these interactions which determine how successful a city is to integrating and attracting international talent. So last year, I went to my first city, and every single month since then, I've traveled to a different city, Helsinki being one of them. And in each city, all of this research has been funded by the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust in the UK, which sponsors around 150 UK citizens and awards fellowships to go abroad and look at a specific area of their expertise. To get the understanding in each city, I interviewed everyone from policymakers, business investors, international talents themselves, and that gave a very good understanding of the economic rationale of why you would move to the city. But as we all know, some of you may have moved cities, there's emotional rationale. It's how friendly are people if I walk into a bar? And for some people, a very emotional topic was how much does my beer cost? So in addition to formal interviews, I interviewed every single person I could for as long as I could. So that was shop owners, people on the street, many Uber drivers. And that gave me a really good understanding of how receptive a city was to attracting international talent. So in terms of what I want to do today, I don't have time to share all the research, but I want to focus on 3 big questions and themes so that some of you who are thinking of moving to different cities or looking at talent attraction ecosystems can gain some insights for some of your future initiatives. So the first big question that came up is, are we paying enough attention to international student entrepreneurs? And this has come from first-hand experience. Back in 2012, I was starting my first business while pursuing a postgraduate degree in New York. And there were 30 other student entrepreneurs who had either launched ventures or wanted to launch ventures upon graduation. So myself and a fellow student set up Columbia University's first incubator. Of the 30 founders, about 20% of them were foreign, including me, and I don't think any of us realized just how difficult it would be to navigate the visa process and stay and grow our businesses. So the majority of people went home. And looking at that process left me so frustrated, and it's one of the reasons I'm talking to you on stage today. The Kaufman Foundation actually put numbers on this, and they said that a viable startup visa could create up to 240 billion in economic value and create 1.3 million jobs. So these are not small numbers, but what models are there to actually be able to solve this? This was one I came across called the Global Entrepreneur in Residence Program. And they partner with universities to identify really ambitious international student entrepreneurs and connect them with visas to be able to stay and grow their businesses. In turn, if you're accepted into this program, the entrepreneurs actually have to be able to give back to the city and the state that supports them. So it's a win-win situation. And if all goes to plan and they grow their businesses, they're awarded a visa at the end of this. Now, this is not a perfect system, but it's a very good start to start identifying those immigrant entrepreneurs that are already students and are already familiar with your culture. So to date, they've awarded around 40 visas and created about 120 jobs. So it's not a bad start. And in case you're wondering just how high the stakes might be, this is a quote from Kunal Bal. He was a student at the University of Pennsylvania, and he also had a job offer at Microsoft, but his dream was to go back to Silicon Valley and start a company. In 2008, immigration officials rejected his visa. Fast forward, he's now the CEO of a company called Snapdeal, which created 6,000 jobs in India and has revenues of over 100 million. So if I can leave you with a few takeaways here, universities are doing the really hard work of attracting the best and brightest foreign talent. And university is also one of the best times to incubate a business. Some of the best companies we know today, like Facebook, started in a dorm room. So if we can create conditions where universities work with the government and immigration policies to tell students from day one what the pathways are, I think those cities have a significant advantage. So the next topic I want to cover, and some of the speakers touched on this earlier, is are we actually leveraging immigrant entrepreneurial talent that already exists? And I want to talk about two groups. The first is experienced employees. So on a recent trip to Dublin, I met Christian Feikart. He was a brilliant social entrepreneur. He was Polish, and he first came to Dublin as a tech employee of Google. But he actually had a background in psychotherapy in his home country. As he worked and lived in Ireland, he saw a problem in the market. He felt the mental health system was extremely difficult to navigate. So he wanted to combine his tech expertise at Google with his psychotherapy background. And he ended up launching a company called MyMind. Now, he was lucky because he was an EU citizen, so he didn't have to face any immigration barriers. In addition, because he had a residence permit, he was able to gain access to financing. So those factors combined meant that he was able to create an extraordinary impact on the Irish mental health system. And he readily admitted to me that if he had to go through those kind of barriers, he would never have started this company. And Enterprise Ireland, which is a government agency I spoke to over there, actually recognised this group of experienced professionals, and they started something called the Competitive Start Fund. They award €50,000 to experienced professionals who want to start a business, and they give you a structured program to commercialise your idea. And the philosophy is, if you're an experienced professional, this de-risks the final business venture, and if you're an employee, this is a much more viable path to commercialise your idea than just quitting your job one day. So again, it's still early days here, but this is a very new model, and they're at least identifying people in the market who might be international, who want to start businesses. Now, the next group I want to talk about, I want to take a quick poll of the audience. How many people are married or have partners? Okay, and how many of you have moved to a different location for your partner or spouse, or they've done that for you? Okay, that was a lot more than I expected, so this is an important topic. Through conversations with founders and international employees, they said to me that one of the biggest sources of unhappiness is if their partner or spouse found the labour conditions difficult. And often they wouldn't be able to find jobs. And one Economist report actually said that 84% of expat spouses in particular had university degrees and had jobs in their previous home locations, but only 36% kept working. And this may be due to a variety of reasons, but it disproportionately affected women and is such a huge waste of talent. So one scheme I found in the Netherlands called the Expat Spouses Initiative actually brought these partners and spouses together to support them find better employment opportunities, but also to start businesses. And these conversations, the emotion in these conversations led me to believe that if a city has a clear pathway for partners and spouses, if the labour market is tough and they have alternatives like starting a business, that could really be the decider for the international worker or international worker or entrepreneur moving to one city over another. The last one I want to talk about is culture. And the big question here is whether your culture is a superpower or it's kryptonite. And for those of you who never watched Superman, kryptonite is the thing that kills superheroes. And across the journey I had over 9 cities, it was a really interesting experience because some cities were extremely warm and welcoming, and others, I won't name them, were exactly the opposite. Helsinki, I will be very glad to tell you, was the one that was extremely warm and welcoming, and I could never have predicted that before I came here. But how do you actually look at culture as a whole within the entrepreneurial ecosystem? This is a graph that I found from a recent startup Genome report. And as you can see, in the first phase, when you're building the ecosystem, it's the activation phase. And as you move through, you get to integration. And integration is where you have multiple successful businesses and a positive culture around internationals, global talent, and building those businesses. But getting to that stage 4 is extremely difficult. 50% of businesses fail within their first 5 years. And I strongly believe it's the culture of that city that gives you the momentum to move up this curve. So all of the cities I observed doing this well was done in a variety of ways through technology, etc. But the 2 things that I want to focus on are networks and education. So I'm going to take you to Canada, and I met a woman called Anna Miranda. She was a Filipino immigrant, and she had no networks when she came to Canada. She had a background in advertising, and she saw a gap in the market where Canadian companies had no clue how to connect with immigrant and multicultural communities. So she started a company called AV Communications. She was actually part of something called the Professional Immigrant Networks, which was started by the Toronto Immigration Council. And she and several other internationals said that this was key to them making connections in employment. It provided mentorship, education, etc., and also helping them connect to native companies to help them understand their backgrounds and their skills. Now, Anna went from 0 to $1 million in revenue. She overcame a number of barriers. This certainly helped her journey. And I categorize her in the new era of superwomen immigrants. The next one I wanted to focus on was coming straight back to Helsinki. This was a program I was really happy to see launched. It's the Chamber of Multicultural Enterprises, and we look at integration as a two-way process. Companies need to understand the skills and special talents of immigrants, but immigrants also need to adapt to local norms. It can't be skewed one way or the other. And one of the things I've learned personally with my business at Growth Hub and helping European companies internationalize is that lack of culture and understanding of ways of doing business in different countries is the biggest source of failure. But when I see things like COME, I'm greatly encouraged because it's a signal that Finland is committed and serious to integrating international talent. And I'd like to give you just a long-term view of how that investment can pay off in the long run. And I'm going to take you back to the UK in the 1970s. Idi Amin was the dictator of Uganda at the time, and he expelled thousands of Ugandan Asians. They had to leave within 90 days. 30,000 of them came to the UK, including my father, and they didn't have much, but they were highly educated and they had raw entrepreneurial skills. Now, 40 years on, in its second and third generation, those generations are almost native. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And far from being a drain on resources, which is what everyone fears about immigration, they've been net creators of wealth and employment and have been one of the most successful immigrant entrepreneurial communities. So I hope that when we look at this issue, we look at this over the long term. And finally, I was trying to think of ways to summarize this whole journey and this presentation to you. And before the weekend, I had a very, very boring slide, but I read some news which I think summarizes this whole story. This is a picture of Katrina Lake. She, over this past week, was the youngest person to IPO her company. Her company is called Stitch Fix. She is also the descendant of Japanese immigrants who emigrated to the US. She's a really good example of the combination of still vast, untapped entrepreneurial potential in immigrants and women. Over 50% of the European population are women, but they represent only 29% of entrepreneurs. That's a massive opportunity. So cities which better engage both international immigrant and female talent with cohesive business, academic and policies have the opportunity not just to attract the best and brightest talent, but to attract the next generation of superheroes. So I'd like to end there, and if you'd like to read about every single city to date, you can go to the Transatlantic Post, and the full report's going to be available earlier this year, so you can go there and add your email. And please feel free to connect on Twitter, and I would love to talk to any one of you about my experiences in Finland, and also touched on earlier where I think you can advertise your biggest assets to get people coming to this country. And I'm doing my part in advertising you as much as I can through the countries. And I really hope that the things you're building now will give justice to how great this country really is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyle. They say that sitting down will be the death of you. I know that sounds horrible, but I thought we could do a small exercise. Now, if everyone could get up for just a minute. Now, I know some of you are thinking, oh my God, he's going to ask me to hug the person next to me. This is Finland, we don't do stuff like that. Damn hosts. Instead, okay, you might have to touch somebody, but it won't be a hug. Just stretch out like this. Back as you can. I'm not very limber. Everyone should do this. This is so cool, like being a rock star. Wow. And now you can sit down, but if you want to, you can hug somebody. Oh, this is so beautiful. I'm tearing up, kind of. I will definitely hug the man who is going to come here next to talk. Sorry, dude. This is a guy who I met just a moment ago. I thought, wow, he has such a big smile. He seems so nice. He's Danish. What a wonder. Danes also have absolutely amazing beer. Now I would like to welcome Nikolai Lubanski, Director of Talent Attraction of Copenhagen Capacity. Give me a big hug, man.
Well, thanks a lot. What a warm welcome. What could you do? So I'm into two challenges. Such a friendly welcome and coming after a superwoman. That makes it. So I'll try to excuse myself that I've earned just a lot of credibility just being next to her in the program. So I'll tell my daughters that I've come after a superwoman, and they will really then increase my credibility, I'm sure. And on the immigrant side, I'm always the same. I have a Polish father. I'm married to a half Swiss, which makes us every Christmas having a big discussion on what kind of tradition should we choose this year. So whether the Polish carp, the cheese fondue of Switzerland, or the Danish, basically pork, hard stuff. So then you can always hear by my way of saying it that the challenge is solved every year. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. Thank you very much for the warm welcome and thank you for inviting me. So I'll try to give you some of the insights that we've been working with in Denmark and in Greater Copenhagen on the talent attraction, both management ecosystem, but also what we are in practice trying to do in order, and hopefully that can be of inspiration to you. I would say when I saw the superwoman on the program, if I had that title, I would feel uncomfortable. Because even though I think sometimes we succeed with something, I've just learned that I'm very Finnish in the sense that I'm so critical to what we do all the time. So even though something appears to be good, I don't really feel like a Superman. But it'll be good to have that idea of what you do. But we try to learn, we try to develop all the time. And I think it's so interesting to discuss that with you on how can we improve this even further. And one of my key issues in that is that it's been an age since the McKinsey report back in the 1990s about the war on talent. I think it's a wrong conception. I think we should talk about talent circulation. So I'm a very big fan of cooperation, how we can find that kind of cooperation. Because I've been living and working in 3 different countries. And there's a little piece of my heart that just, my heart grows bigger. So when I'm going on to a different perspective, of course the connections I have from the other country, I keep on working with those. So I think we should be seeing it at that sense, that if people stay, and that's the perspective I'm trying to put on our work, if they would like to stay for 3 to 5 years in Denmark and boost their career, it's great. Then they should move on. I try to encourage my kids, my students when I teach at university, go abroad, learn, do something different, come back with different perspectives. Actually this night I'm looking very much forward. My oldest daughter will be arriving from 2 months in Borneo, so I'm looking very much forward to hearing her experiences there. So I think that perspective on putting it, that we are giving an opportunity to somebody. And we should see, so there your name of what you're doing right now, the talent boost thing, really makes sense. So exploit that, the boost idea, that you can boost the career of somebody for a number of years. And if you do that, they will always remember you. They'll build up their business here. They'll do on and go on doing connections around the world for you. So that's at least the perspective we are trying to use on. So yeah, a long introduction to me, let's jump down. I work in something called the Copenhagen Capacity. Copenhagen Capacity, I like to see us as the intel of when you see a computer, everything works, you just see a little sign that says Intel and the computer works. I would like to see Copenhagen Capacity be the same organization for investment promotion, talent attraction. So what we've been in place is a business foundation been in place for 24 years. And we've been working all the years for attracting companies to Greater Copenhagen, investors. But only 5 years ago, we realized that we had to do something in the talent area. And that's when I got in and got employed. Because we experienced that more and more companies, not only when they were entering Denmark, they were saying, what kind of incentives do you have? Compared to many other countries, I just had to say no, 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 no free land, no tax reductions, no investments in R&D from the state, and so on and so forth, because that's not the model we have. We have the welfare model, where you should pay your taxes, you should contribute to society, and so on. But then I realized that many of the foreign companies, they started asking the talent questions there. Can you assist us in finding the people we need to grow our business here? So instead of asking the normal question, they started asking the talent question. At the same time, we saw a lot of Danish-based companies actually outflagging their activities to other places around the world due to not being able to find the people they need. So we thought we need to do something. And that's what I'm going to try to give you some insights on. I think the first slides, I have a workshop in the afternoon where I'll dive much more down to these. So I'll jump a bit fast on the first slides and go a little bit deeper into what we do, and then I'll come back in the workshop. But this is a commercial. Please join the workshop. So I think what is important first, that as I often say, in my work, I'm never better than the product. I might be a good salesman or something like that, but if the product's not good, it doesn't work. And I can't do the full product. I need to work together with a lot of different stakeholders. So actually, when I was employed, the first project I should do was the Copenhagen Talent Bridge. And I had the idea that I should simply travel the world and attract talents, going to South Korea and other places I haven't been, to try to convince and persuade talents to go to Denmark. So the 2 first years, I was on my bike, biking the bridges of Copenhagen to talk with all the other stakeholders in order to get the management ecosystem of this working. Because if I was attracting people, and as you say, there's no programs available for them, no spouse programs, no language courses, no international house, it wouldn't be working. I would be selling stuff, people would be disappointed, and our talent reputation would be going down. I'll elaborate much more on this later, but it's a joint effort. You need to get the ecosystem working. But what I think is as important is you have to find some way of orchestrating this whole setting. So I love very much somebody talks about the art, and who doesn't want to be an artist? The art of doing talent attraction. And there you need a conductor. You need somebody who takes the lead and get the partners, the stakeholders together and find out how can we work together. Because if you don't have the full value chain of talent attraction, talent reception, talent integration, and talent reputation, if there's just one of the parts of the chain that doesn't work, If I attract a lot of people, and then we're not good at inviting and welcoming people here, then they'll be disappointed that they will leave. So after having spent 2 years on my bike, biking the bridges of Copenhagen, we developed a regional talent strategy in order both to get the stakeholders working together, but also on the other hand, that we decided on a division of labor. So I could concentrate on what I think my organization is good at, that's attracting resources from abroad. So we've been able to concentrate on attracting people, and I'll tell you much more about that, due to having a lot of other stakeholders doing the reception part, the integration part, and the reputation part is also slightly part of what we do. So I'll dive much more into that later on, so I won't take that from here. Just, it has made us and given us the possibility of concentrating on how can we do this attraction part. And even though you talk about the weather in Finland, we have the west coast of Denmark, we have there's never real snow, it's there for a day and then it disappears. And I think we're very similar in that. Some of these areas, but at least it stays here a bit longer. And I'm that weird person that always goes north for my vacation. So I have actually that planned in February. Unfortunately, Swedish Lapland, I shouldn't be saying that. So what we do know, just to give you an idea of what we've been able to concentrate on, I'll give you some examples of that, is that we do talent attraction exposure. That means both what we do is that we focus on very clearly on the demand of the companies. It's all based on what are the lack of competences at the companies. And we've been able to concentrate on basically some groups there, but they're all international experience specialists. That's the specialist segment. At least 3 to 5 years of experience when we go abroad of attracting people. And then what we do in that exposure, I'll give you some examples of it later on, is that we try to combine, you can say, increasing the employer brand and the place brand in the same time, telling the story of why people should go, and then we have a call to action. We have an open job. So they don't only get a story, they get a call to action. They can apply for a job very easily. So we combine the employer branding with the place branding. And actually we can see that because we can follow that very, very clearly now. We can look at, when we talk about the more emotional part, we've of course taken the happiness concept. We are every year selected as the most happy. I always wonder why, but the most happy country around the world. So of course we exploit that. And by doing that we can see we get a lot of exposure. But connecting it into why should people then act? They need some reason to act. They need a job, they need an experience, they need a career, they need an offer. So that's what we try to combine. I'll give you some examples on that. The other second target group, so I'm glad to be here after you, is because we focus on the talent that already found their way to Denmark into the educational system. And it's been a rapidly growing number. So we thought, why go to China when we have the Chinese people in the educational institutions in Denmark? And they are basically taking the educations that the business life is looking for. So we are trying to dive into that. So why we do career programs for them. We do startup activities so they can be assisted in starting up companies. So these are basically the 2 main target groups we have here. It is also here within, because we have others conducting the spouses program, so that's why we're not focusing on that. So we do matchmaking on both these 2 target groups, and then what we also try to do is to do recruitment materials for, like, it's employer branding, employer place branding materials that the companies themselves can take in and use. So we try to assist them in building up a toolbox of different materials that they can actually dive into. We have built an app called Move to Denmark app, where they actually can use this app for preparing themselves for getting it. So what I'll do now is give you some examples, but mostly on the talent attraction and exposure side, because I understood from some of the discussions here that this is part of what you also consider to do. So I'll start by showing you a video.
All over the world, the competition is strong between cities, regions and nations to attract business, investment and talented people. To differentiate our metropolis as a leading business hub, we decided to gather public and private partners in eastern Denmark and southern Sweden around the brand Greater Copenhagen. We wanted to use Copenhagen's positive brand image and soft values, happiness, freedom and livability to our advantage. So we invented a new digital campaign concept and a platform to build a strong brand and to generate leads. The platform enables us to run multiple campaigns at the same time, with razor-sharp, relevant messages across different international audiences, industries and markets. This data-driven approach gives us unique knowledge about our target groups and their behaviour, and guarantees that our messages always arouse curiosity and a desire to know more. We like to say that we invite people on a journey to explore that there is more to our happiness. Our quality of life, our trust and the freedom to be you. Because these deeply rooted Scandinavian values also provide businesses with a real competitive advantage. However, it's still a well-kept secret for most. The launch of the first small test campaigns have generated massive exposure and great results, with 20 jobs secured, equal to almost €2 million in contribution to public finances. We're now planning to roll out 10 campaigns every year in close partnerships with local businesses. And our expectations are high, because the first campaigns show that happiness truly is the key to growth in our metropolis, Greater Copenhagen.
The video was taken the day the weather was good. Yeah. So basically what we try to do is to combine, as we were talking about earlier, Esko was talking about it, you were talking about it, you have to be authentic. You have to be able to say what is the specific thing about going to a place and what is that connected to. So what we try to do is to not oversell, we should actually be able to deliver. So we try to attract people to the industries and the places where this is connected to a lifestyle. So for instance, the part of the smart cities, we have a climate plan in Copenhagen, should be the first CO2 neutral city in 2025, and actually the plan is working, so it seems we will be successful in that. That actually is very connected to the lifestyle, of biking, of all this activities, outdoor activities still. So we try to not oversell things. But what is important here is that we need a specific offer. So what we try to do is to gather all the international open jobs at a common web page. So we're able to show there is a career system. Because if you are moving for a job, you would like to know that the job is not a single job in that industry. You have other opportunities. So it's in order to show a career destination, a career possibility, a career area. So basically I'll just elaborate a little bit more about some of the campaigns here. So what we're trying to do is actually several things at the same time. One thing is to personalize it. I think we just have discussed very much how can you do this, scale it up, by still making it personal. So you are interested, you will be alert for something if it actually touches upon something in you. So what we're trying to do is that you can actually change your settings of what kind of interest you have. So you have all the open jobs of the companies here who are joining in, and then you can actually see if you personalize this, the pictures change, the setting changes, the interesting information changes. so we can keep on talking and being in a dialogue with people which is relevant on a digital basis. So basically, just to give you, every time we do an attraction campaign, we talk very much with the companies, what profiles are they looking for? So how can they actually reach these, where are these profiles around the world? How can we reach them? And how can we get their attention? Because so many is reaching out of them. There's such a competition there. So why should they pick out a peculiar place like Copenhagen or Denmark? So we try to be very targeted on what kind of channel, and the channel strategy is based on the inputs of the companies. And then we actually can get them into the web page, that's the page you saw before. We can keep on retargeting those who just are interested in it. And the big thing here for the companies is that we screen the applicants. So they actually only have to look at the relevant candidates for them. We do that ourselves, we do that in cooperation with recruitment companies. And then they can concentrate on looking at the qualified candidates. Just to show you some numbers on some of the campaigns, is that this is within the fintech industry. We're looking for developers into people who are able to work with financial technologies. We reached with the campaign almost 20 million viewers, had 175,000 entering our unique users into our campaign site. And we had 1,448 applications for 36 jobs. My department was devastated for some weeks. We just were looking at applications. We had never expected this amount. So it's a bit of the Wellington idea. What I'm as happy with was that around 4,500 signed up for having a dialogue. And when the right job comes, then we can keep on being in dialogue. And we had 100 candidates. We sent 326 candidates on for interviews, and had 100 who proceeded into an interview process, and 24 employed in the very end. So I should put that down as well. But there you see, what an amount, from 20 million to 24 employees, and some of the employees got like 8 months afterwards. But of course, if you don't do that, you will never have the 24, that increases the talent pool. And then you get the awareness, you get the people you can keep the dialogue with. So this is basically just for giving you an example, and of course, when we talk about, it's good to have the figures, the 24, how much do they transfer into. I'm a bit of a hurry, so I'll leave the last slide for the workshop, another commercial here. Just say I've tried to, because I have a past as a researcher, and that's changed and spoiled my life to some extent, because you can't do anything without having two sides' perspective on stuff. So I need to write things down once in a while to get my learnings there. So a book about innovating talent attraction with our perspectives on it. Thanks a lot for giving me the floor.
Who knew hugging is so nice? Thank you, Nikolai. Usually hate commercials, but that was a really good commercial. Next, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Elina Nurmi, representing the city of Helsinki. Elina, come on stage. And because we're Finns, maybe a really, really warm handshake. Let's do that. The stage is yours. Give Elina a big round of applause.
Thank you. Alright, so hello and good day everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the morning session so far. So my name is Elina Nurmi and I work as a project manager at the City of Helsinki's Department of Economic Development. I've been granted the stage for about 5 minutes or so to give you a quick preview of a brand new service that the City of Helsinki and its partners are about to launch in December. It's a service that aims at tackling some of the very issues that have been raised in the previous presentations. Namely, how can we make the Helsinki region, or Finland more generally, a more attractive and a more welcoming destination for international talents, while at the same time being able to retain the existing talent, and how can we make better use of the international talent that already resides in the area and create smoother and faster transitions for internationals into the local labor market. So these are some of the key issues that have already been articulated in the course of this morning, and of course in the context of the Talent Boost program that you talked about earlier. Okay, part of the answer to these challenges, we believe, lies in developing and implementing a service model that goes by the name International House Helsinki. It's a service that's coordinated or will be coordinated by the city of Helsinki, and which is expected to open for customers on December 4th. So what is International House Helsinki and who is it for? Who are the customers of International House Helsinki? International House Helsinki, once the operation is launched, will provide a wide range of government, city, and other support services for international newcomers in the Helsinki capital region under one roof. It's a place, a service center, that international newcomers and the accompanying family members can go to and get their paperwork sorted out. So if you're a customer of the International House Helsinki, you can register as a resident there. You can get a Finnish personal identity code, you can get a tax card or a tax number if you need it, a social security card, and so forth. Or you can receive help, for example, in finding a social or a professional network. The cornerstone of the service, let's see how do I operate this. The cornerstone of the service are the core administrative and legal services provided by different government agencies, which most newcomers need to get access to in order to work and settle in the area. So these would be the following service providers: the local register office, the Finnish tax administration, the social insurance institution of Finland, Kela, the Office of Employment and Economic Development, the Finnish Immigration Service, the Helsinki Police Department, and the cities of Helsinki, Espoo, and Vantaa. In addition to the administrative and legal services, International House Helsinki will offer free information and counseling services in multiple languages for international newcomers on topics that are of relevance to newcomers, such as housing, spare time activities, daycare, schooling, learning the Finnish language, and so forth. Now, if you're a company or an employer, you'll be interested to know that International House Helsinki also serves employers who are looking to hire or integrate international workers into the workplace. International House Helsinki's employer service will be operated by the Helsinki Region Chamber of Commerce, and it provides free advisory and counseling services on issues related to international workforce. For example, on how to acquire a residence permit or how to get a skills assessment for an employee and so forth. The service, the employer service, is already up and running, and it will be accompanied very soon also by an online toolkit. Now, Anniina Mandelin from the Helsinki Region Chamber of Commerce, who is primarily responsible for running the employer service, is, I believe, here today. Anniina is over there at the back. Anniina is here today and available presumably for your questions. So if you're interested in knowing more about the employer service, please get in touch with Anniina today or at some later point in time. I only have 5 minutes, so I'll just wrap up by saying that International House Helsinki is in Finland the first service of its kind to bring a majority, not all, but a majority of the information and public authority services needed by international newcomers and companies that hire them under the same umbrella. We believe that the service, this new service, will also be an asset in the pursuit and also the retention of international talent and that it will also increase, in the long run, the overall appeal of the Helsinki capital region in the eyes of international talent and the accompanying family members. I should maybe point out that when the International House Helsinki service pilot now is launched on December 4th in the premises of the local register office, it will be a significant upgrade to the existing services or the service model, but it will not be the final result. Rather, it will be a starting point for an operation that will be built up in stages. But maybe I'll stop on that note. I'd also like to invite all of you to share your thoughts with us on how you think we should go about developing the service further so as to best accommodate the needs of both international talents and companies of the kind that are represented here today. Thank you.
All right, time for our final attraction before lunch. Now, we've been talking about talent a lot. It's time to bring 6 very talented groups on stage. We're going to have a pitching contest. And now these groups are only going to have 1 minute to convince you about how great their ideas. Here they're starting to come out. These are 6 companies that have international talent and great ideas. Now, because people when they come on stage and they get a microphone, just like me, they like to talk. So, when I lift this up, you start applauding like crazy. So they have to leave the stage and they can't say anything again, basically. And then the next one comes up. So we have 6 great startups here. You all have 1 minute. The clock is objective. I'll put it on once you start talking. Who would speak first?
You're the host.
You come there, Mr. Eero here. You look very enthusiastic, so let's put this watch. Here you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
Just tell me when to go.
This is very dramatic. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eero. It's a bit like airplane. Eero Miettinen. And my organization is Talent Tampere. We come from Tampere, which is the second largest growing city area in Finland. The population in the city is about 230,000 people, but the metropolitan area is about 330,000 people. And the population keeps growing by 3,000 a year. And out of this 3,000, about 30% are foreigners, internationals. And this foreign capital is our fuel, our lifeline, basically. We really attention to these people. And Talent Tampere was founded in 2014 in order to create a bridge between internationals and companies and vice versa. And our aim is to help businesses become successful and continue to succeed, both in our region, in our country, and also go abroad. And we do this by matchmaking companies and internationals. Very private, like this, we meet with the company representatives. So all companies. Thank you. Can I just say one thing?
Later.
Yeah.
Just start that. Next one. Come on.
Yeah, hi.
Thanks for the product. Here we go. 1 minute.
Great.
Go.
So, the Shortcut, I'm here for the Shortcut. It's a grassroots level organization that belongs to Startup Foundation. Startup Foundation owns various companies such as Slush, Startup Sauna, Junction, and many others. We are based in Maria 01, which is the hub for startup in Helsinki. And the reason why we were created was to be more inclusive and attract other people who are not quite well integrated into Finnish society. We use technology and entrepreneurship. Technology because it's an easy way to actually integrate people. It has a multiplier effect on revenues and also employment. And the reason we do all these things is because we realize there's so much talent and untapped potential in Finland, and we would like to have them work for startups. So we lower the barrier of participation, we create more people who want to create a startup or work for one, or then exactly as well make sure that people are going to come and talk to us.
Not an easy job, I don't know.
All right, are you ready? Are you ready?
When I came to Finland, I only knew one person, the handsome Finn who lured me over here. I needed to start a new life, new job, new community, new friends. I needed to find somewhere there I didn't need Finnish language skills or local job references. I needed to find somewhere I could express myself and put my skills into action. And I found all of this through volunteering, hands-on action, not just for charities, but for businesses and startups, for events and conferences, professional volunteering for professional recognition. And from this was born Volunteer Finland. And over the past couple of years, Volunteer Finland has been growing into a place for Finns and foreigners alike to find new opportunities, to present themselves, to test themselves, and to be noticed. You don't have to look far to find international talent. We are already here at this event today. Staff in the registration desk, come find us.
Okay, hi all. I'm Sonia Hyrynsalmi from Turku Science Park. So Turku Science Park is a regional development business center in Turku region, and I run one of our service points, a startup community SparkUp. And SparkUp brings together under the same roof all the startup organization, the university startup courses, the events and talents in Turku region. And well, there is a lot of positive things going on in Turku, and we want to learn more about how to be attractive, how to really give something for our talents, and how to get talents to boost our economic positive things going on in Turku region. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Jen Lee, working at Sino Talent Finland Association as a project manager at Work in Finland. And this project is collaborating together with the city of Espoo. So our purpose of this project is to promote the employment of Chinese-speaking talents living in Finland. And in order to achieve this goal, and we organize different kind of activities, workshops, and also professional trainings together with service providers. How you could reach those talents, I mean Chinese-speaking talents in Finland, contact me. So of course, on site we have different activities. For example, tomorrow we were gonna arrange this Sino Talent Talks 27 in Innobolli. So you are still have some kind of seats for you, waiting for you. And then on site we have the LinkedIn talent pool. So contact me with the new talent.
And our final one.
Hello, everybody. I'm Russ, so I will have 2 minutes. Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready? Yes. 1 minute. Go.
Hello, everybody. Right at this moment in Finland, we have thousands of highly educated Russian-speaking professionals who are eager to become a part of success story of your company. In addition, in Finland, we have more than 6,000 companies who are connected to or interested in creating partnerships to Russian or Baltic business markets. The biggest challenge is that most companies have difficulties to find the most talents for a job. We have a solution for you. Russian-speaking talent is a pool of more than 300 highly educated professionals from the most qualified Russian-speaking talents in Finland. Contact us and we tell you more. Ja puhumme myös suomea.
That's a shame because I was prepared to give you 15 seconds from Turku. What are you going to do? No, you can hear all of these great startups behind this curtain. We're about to go for lunch. So if you want to know more, you can ask them and you just take a watch and you say 1 minute and you see they can do it. So we'll continue at 12:30, meet up with startups, mingle, talk to each other, and at 12:30 exactly we'll continue with the show. It's been a real pleasure so far, but clap yourselves to yourselves a bit. Okay? And I'll see you here at 12:30. Thank you.
You're amazing. I'll see you everybody.
Well done.
Thank you so much, man.
I didn't make up the rules. I'm just like,
got all the answers across the we got two ideas. To come start, and that was so-called so it was really amazing to listen to the words because we need these things. So I'm so happy to meet you and I'm sorry I haven't time to talk with you. Yeah, I meant, we didn't talk too much about these things, but it was very honor to come to face to face. And I had to say something like, we have the boss's boss,